The restaurant was closing when two little girls in matching pink sweaters pushed open the door and said, "Our daddy's sorry he's late. He's still in uniform." Candlelight Terrace at autumn dusk was a place where silverware chimed like fading bells and lamplight fell on oak tables like powdered gold. The waiter had half-drawn the curtains. Most tables stood empty, chairs tucked in with quiet precision. At table 7, by the window, Dr. Elena Ward sat perfectly upright, her hands folded over a linen napkin. 43 minutes had passed since the agreed time. She checked her watch again and smiled faintly, the way someone does to hide a small ache. Then the door opened. Two small figures in pink sweaters stood beneath the wind chime, their breaths ghosting in the cool air. The taller one, hair tied into two ribbons, asked politely, "Are you Miss Elena?" "Yes," Elena said, softening her tone. "And who might you two be?" "I'm Lily," said the first. "And this is Grace. Our daddy's Captain Ryan Hale. He says sorry for being late. He just came from the remembrance ceremony. He's still in uniform." The waiter blinked, unsure what to do. Elena rose, bending slightly to meet their eyes. Lily's gaze was calm beyond her age. Grace's darted curiously, as if afraid to miss something important about life. Elena felt a faint, cool current. That invisible signal therapists learn to sense. A room where sorrow has a name, and love is still looking for its voice. "Your dad's busy with grown-up work?" she asked gently. Grace nodded. "Work for grown-ups? And for the sky?" Lily glanced at the empty chair. "Can you stay and eat with us, Miss Elena? Daddy said if you left, he'd regret it forever." The sentence cracked something tender open. Elena smiled, motioning the waiter not to clear the table. 3 glasses of water appeared. The girls climbed onto their seats, their feet swinging above the floor, the pink of their sweaters glowing like 2 little flames in the dim room. "Daddy just came from the ceremony," Lily said, solemn. "He doesn't like people taking pictures there." "Did he cry?" Elena asked, not to pry, but to open a door softly. Grace shook her head, then whispered, "He said it was rain." Elena didn't write anything down. She simply listened, letting the silence write itself across her heart. When the cheesecakes arrived, Lily pushed hers toward Elena. "Daddy said you like lemon." Elena smiled. "He remembers well." The empty chair across from her no longer looked lonely. It looked like a runway light waiting for someone to land. "Daddy still talks to Mommy in his dreams," Grace murmured, as if confessing to the stars. Elena's hands paused. "Your Mommy's name was Amelia, right?" Both nodded. "She said when Daddy can't smile anymore, we should find you," Lily said, reaching for her little fabric wallet shaped like an airplane. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, edges yellowed, crease worn thin. "She wrote this before she went to heaven," Lily explained. "We can't read the last line. It's torn." Elena took the note, delicately, as if receiving a living thing. The handwriting was graceful, yet strong, a woman aware that every word might be her last. "If you ever smile again." The line ended in a jagged tear. Under the warm light, the ink had bled like the trail of a departing bird. Elena exhaled softly, returned it with both hands, a silent gesture of reverence. "Daddy never read the end," Grace said. "He said if he does, Mommy will feel too close," Lily added. Elena recognized the weight in those words. She had met Amelia Hale 3 years earlier, in a field hospital tent. The woman's hand had gripped hers once and whispered, "If he forgets how to open his heart, knock for me, gently." He hears soft knocks. Elena hadn't known then that destiny would hand her the key. "You came alone?" she asked. "No," Grace replied. Uncle Ben drove us, but he doesn't know we came in. We stole Daddy's date. Elena laughed. So, 2 co-pilots hijacked the mission? Lily shook her head seriously. We redirected it to a safe landing. The door opened again. A tall man in a flight uniform stood framed by the fading streetlight, cap in hand, weariness in his eyes. Captain Ryan Hale looked first at the pink sweaters, then at the woman between them. The air stilled, like a photograph waiting to be taken. "Dad!" Grace darted toward him. Lily followed, slower but surer. Ryan knelt, arms wide, holding them tight, one hand instinctively cupping the back of their heads, the reflex of a man who's shielded too much from falling skies. When he finally looked up, his gaze met Elena's. For a moment, everything, the light, the hum of the street, the clinking glass, faded into the soft collision of recognition. "You're Elena," he said, voice rough from the wind. "They hijacked your date," she teased lightly. "They saved it," he answered. He set his pilot's cap on the edge of the table with an airman's care, as if it might shatter. The waiter brought another plate. Ryan apologized for his delay with the calm of someone used to being late to joy and early to duty. Elena watched how he listened, how he leaned in when his daughters spoke, how the muscles in his jaw softened for the first time all night. "They showed me the letter," Elena said quietly. Ryan froze. "The letter?" Lily opened her little wallet again, but Elena intervened softly. "It's all right. They only read the beginning." He took the paper, fingertips trembling slightly. The torn edge flickered under the light, and for an instant, the past returned. The scent of iodine, the flap of canvas tents, Amelia's smile beneath a fading sun. He lifted his eyes and met Elena's. He remembered her now. The calm medic who had stood beside the bed when the world was crumbling. The coincidences rearranged themselves into something deliberate. "You were there," he said. Elena nodded. "Yes." Silence filled the space between them, not cold, but living, like air after a storm. Grace whispered, "We told Daddy that if he didn't come, we'd find you ourselves." Ryan half smiled. "Where would you go?" Lily replied softly, "Where Mommy said to." Elena felt the shift, the fragile transition from a date to a mission. She said, "You don't have to be strong all through dinner, Captain." Ryan breathed out, and the corners of his mouth curved into the shy, unfamiliar motion of a man learning to smile again. Outside, rain began to fall. Thin strings across the glass. The twins counted raindrops, then played Elena's breathing game. Blue is calm, red is brave, purple is memory. They closed their eyes, whispering colors into the night. Ryan watched them, then looked at Elena. He finally understood why Amelia had written her name. Candlelight Terrace, once just a restaurant, had become a landing field for souls that forgot how to descend. The empty chair was no longer empty. It carried the unseen weight of someone still watching. Elena touched her cup, warm enough to anchor her in the present. She knew this evening wouldn't erase grief. It would only teach them how to carry it home, gentler. "Do you have duty tomorrow?" she asked. "Yes," Ryan said. "But tomorrow night, maybe I can show you the hangar. There's a room where pilots hang everything unsaid." "I know how to listen to what's unsaid," she replied. The girls insisted on paying, with toy coins from their pockets. The waiter played along, asking for a song instead. So Lily and Grace stood side by side, singing "Fly Me to the Moon" in half-remembered phrases. For the first time, Ryan didn't turn it off in his mind. He let the melody circle once, whole. Near the door, the rain was soft as thread, and the twins' pink sweaters caught little sparks of streetlight. Ryan walked a half-step behind, as if learning again how to match his stride to smaller feet. Elena moved beside them, neither guest nor guide, simply a steady presence the night seemed to make room for. Back inside, before heading out, Uncle Ben texted that he'd circle the block. The twins insisted on a 10-minute debrief, their phrase, because every mission deserved one. They took a corner booth by the window while Ryan spoke to Ben outside, the pilot's cap tucked under his arm, the way a man carries an object that knows too much. "Can we see the letter again?" Elena asked gently. Lily unzipped the little airplane wallet. The paper emerged like something that had survived weather. Carefully folded, edges frayed, crease polished by many small thumbs. Elena didn't open it right away. She let the twins watch her waiting. Children, more than adults, understand ceremony. Grace leaned in so close a strand of hair clung to the paper's edge. "Mommy wrote it before she went to heaven," she whispered. "She told us that." "What else did she say?" Elena asked. "That Daddy knows what to do in the sky," Lily said. "But he might forget what to do on the ground. She said if that happens, find Miss Elena." Elena didn't ask how Amelia had known to write her name. She recognized the shape of a promise fulfilled beyond the map of ordinary cause and effect. She simply unfolded the page, the handwriting tilted forward, elegant and sure. Even the blank inches, where the bottom line had torn away, were eloquent. Elena read aloud quietly, as if recounting a lullaby to someone already asleep. "If you ever smile again." Then the cliff. Ink feathered to a ragged white. The unsaid roared louder than words. She let a breath out, slow colored blue in her mind's private legend, and returned the letter to Lily with 2 hands. "Thank you for trusting me," she said. "May I ask where you keep it?" "In the wallet," Grace said, "so it's near our tummies. That way the letter doesn't get lonely. Does Daddy know you carry it?" The girls exchanged a glance. This was one of their twin languages, composed of half nods and shared silence. "He knows we have it," Lily answered. "He doesn't know it comes to dinner." Outside the glass, Ryan was still talking with Ben. Rain haloed off the brim of his cap, brightening then dimming like a small, stubborn star. Elena felt the familiar ache, the one that arrives whenever grief learns to walk beside love without pushing it away. She wanted to keep the ache from the children, but they were already fluent in it. Children are. They just use rounder words. "Did Mommy say anything about the last line being torn?" Elena asked. "No," Grace said. "But I think Mommy tore it herself." "Why do you think that?" "Because Mommy liked to leave Daddy little puzzles. Not hard ones, just the kind where your heart has to guess." Elena smiled. She looked at Lily, who was the steadier light between the two. "And you?" "I think it tore from being hugged," Lily said, matter of fact. "Paper isn't good at hugs." Elena hid her sudden sting of tears by sipping water. She studied the twins the way a navigator studies weather, not to change it, only to travel safely through. In them, she sensed Amelia's afterglow, not the echo of disappearance, but a presence diffused, like perfume that lingers on the sweater of someone you love. They were not simply children, they were carriers, of a melody, a gate code, a threshold more felt than seen. Ryan came back in, cap under his arm again. He took a seat that kept the girls between him and the window, an airman's habit with softer motive now. He didn't ask for the letter. He looked at Elena instead, as if seeking permission to be the one asked. "She read the first line," Lily reported promptly. "We didn't show the end because there isn't one." Ryan's jaw tightened. "There is one," he said, voice mild but steady. "I just never read it." Elena nodded, not to agree but to give him space. Would you like to talk about why? He considered the table's wood grain, tracing invisible runways with his eyes. When Amelia wrote, the tent was loud in all the wrong ways. Fans, straps, wind doing the work of a voice it didn't have the right to use. She asked me to wait outside while she sang to the two of them. He glanced at his daughters. I didn't think I'd ever be inside a song again. Grace made a tiny sound. Ryan smoothed her hair, then folded his hands, a gesture of restraint more than prayer. After she died, the letter was in a plastic sleeve with our names. I carried it from base to base in the flight log, like a fuse I didn't want to pull. Because if you read the end, Elena's words trailed off, then she'd be present, too present. He smiled without moving his mouth. And I wasn't good at that. Not then. Dad's good at landing, Grace said. He's just not good at landing on feelings. We're practicing, Lily added loyally. Elena weighed her next sentence like a surgeon weighs a scalpel. Would you be willing, she asked, to let the girls hold the letter the next time you're tempted to hide it? Ryan frowned, but not in resistance. He was measuring. Why? Because their hands won't make it heavier. Something softened in his eyes. He looked at their fingers, small pink sweatered sleeves pushed to the wrist, and nodded once. All right. The waiter placed 2 hot chocolates and a coffee. Steam braided upward. The twins cupped their mugs and leaned into the warmth with instinct 1,000 years old. May I ask another question? Elena said to Ryan. You may. Who first taught you not to read endings? He almost laughed. The Air Force, then the war, and after that, love. If a thing doesn't end, it can't be lost. So you learn to stop at almost. Elena looked down at the letter in Lily's wallet. Almost is a room some people live in their whole lives. Doors there look like walls from the inside. She said lightly to the girls, I have a game I play with pilots who forget to breathe. It's called butterfly count. Every time you feel a heavy thought land, you name it, and then you gently blow it off like a butterfly. Not swat it, not trap it, just let it go where it needs to. Grace practiced with comic sincerity, puffing at imaginary wings. Lily tried quietly, her breath slower, eyes thoughtful. Ryan watched them practice letting go of what he, a grown man, had only learned to hold. Elena turned to him. Tomorrow, may I come to the base? Only if it's permitted. I'd like to see where you keep your almost. He hesitated, then smiled the small new smile from the restaurant. Yes, there's a room. We call it the hangar room. Clothes hanger, not hangar. An old joke. It's a small side room inside the hangar where we hang what we can't carry into the sky. Then we'll try something simple, she said. We won't read the end of the letter, not yet. We'll practice the part before the end, where a person lets air in. Is air a feeling? Grace asked. It can be, Elena said, when you notice it. She glanced at Ryan. We'll notice it together. Uncle Ben texted that the street had cleared. The twins zipped the wallet and patted it twice, a ritual that made even the torn edge look safe. They slid off the bench. Ryan stood but lingered, holding the table's edge as if it were an anchor that would forgive him for letting go. On the sidewalk, the rain had thinned to a chalky mist. Ben flashed the headlights and honked a playful rhythm only the girls understood. They answered with 2 hops in sync, a coded reply. Ryan buckled them in, checked twice, then closed the door with a palm flat and gentle. When he turned, Elena was beside him. Her umbrella canted over so it covered his shoulder, too. Thank you, he said. For what? "For not pushing the plane onto the ground," he said, a crooked grin. "And for reminding me the ground is still here." She nodded. "We're not landing," she said. "We're taxiing." He laughed, surprised by the sound and its harmlessness. Ben pulled forward. The twins pressed their hands to the window as if leaving prints on the night. Elena stepped back, then forward again. "Elena," he said. "Yes?" "If you had to guess the end of the line, just to keep the fuse from burning alone, what would you guess?" She didn't answer right away. She watched the twins trace little hearts in the fogged glass. She listened for the voice she'd once promised to carry. Then she said, "Something like, 'If you ever smile again, let them see who taught you.'" Ryan rested his palm over his heart in a gesture that wasn't military. "That's close," he said, though of course he couldn't know. "Close is good for tonight." The car eased away. He didn't salute it. He lifted a hand the way a person waves at a departing boat when the tide is kind. Elena walked to her own car, folded the umbrella, and sat with the engine off. She let the rain tick a metronome against the roof while she wrote 3 lines in a small notebook. Children as conduits. Letter as living object. Endings approached sideways. She thought of Amelia's eyes on the day the tents were loud, and how a woman can place a lantern in another woman's hand across years, across absence, across every human reason that says it can't be done. Elena closed the notebook and breathed, blue, red, purple, until her chest felt roomy again. The phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you, Dr. Ward. R. Hale." Below it, a second message. "Tomorrow, 1900. I'll show you where we hang what we can't say." Elena typed only a thumbs up, then added a single word, "Copy." She smiled at the accidental rightness of a pilot's vocabulary borrowing the language of letters. She set the phone down. The wipers cleared the windshield in one long, gentle arc, and the street reappeared. Not brighter, just visible. She turned the key, merged into the thin river of headlights, and followed it toward a base she already knew by heart, a place where almost could become the simplest of doors. The next evening, the air over the base shimmered with the dull hum of turbines and the faint scent of jet fuel. 6:58 p.m. The gates of Albright Air Force Base stood open to the last tint of daylight when Elena's car pulled in. 2 guards saluted and checked her name on the visitors list, signed by Captain Ryan Hale himself. She parked near the hangar row, where silver planes slept under sheets of metal light. The wind here carried a discipline of its own, clipped, rhythmic, exact. She stepped out, buttoning her coat, her eyes drawn to a single figure standing at the hangar's edge, tall, still, the cut of his shoulders unmistakable even from a distance. Ryan Hale stood as if he hadn't moved since yesterday. His flight suit was zipped to the collar, his hands in his pockets, the cap under one arm. When he turned, Elena noticed the exhaustion hidden neatly behind posture, the kind only service members master. Tidy grief. "You're early," he said. "You're punctual," she replied. He smiled slightly, that quiet, careful kind of smile that might break if used too much. "The girls wouldn't let me be late. They said, 'You have to be early for feelings.'" "Smart girls," Elena said, matching his tone. He led her into the hangar room, the one he'd mentioned. It wasn't an office or briefing space. It was something between a memorial and a sanctum. The air smelled faintly of machine oil, metal, and memory. Rows of flight suits hung neatly. Helmets lined a rack. A bulletin board bore faded photographs of air crews. Faces, mid-laughter, mid-life, mid-promise. "This is where I come when I can't sleep," he said. "Here. It's always the same temperature, always the same silence. Elena traced her gaze along the walls, then to a single locker with a brass tag, A. Hale. You still keep it, she said. I don't know how to let it go without feeling like I'm deleting her, he admitted. She stepped closer, her voice low. Letting go isn't deletion. It's changing the folder name. Ryan let out a sound halfway between a sigh and a laugh. You talk like a therapist. I am one, she said, but only part-time. The rest of me just listens. He nodded toward a workbench where an old music box rested, the same one the twins had turned on. Its silver wings glinted under the light. They found it in her drawer last week, he said. It used to play Fly Me to the Moon. Used to? It skips now, he said, twisting the key gently. Like the melody doesn't want to finish. The first few notes floated out. Fragile, fractured, but alive. Elena froze. The sound came from a memory she thought had dissolved years ago. That hospital tent, the dim lamp, Amelia's cracked lips whispering, "Play it when he's ready." Ryan caught the change in her face. You've heard it before. Elena's throat tightened. Yes, she sang it, in the recovery wing, for the nurses, for you. For a long moment, Ryan said nothing. The melody limped on, trembling through the still air. His eyes flicked between the box and her face, and something old, long restrained, began to thaw. I thought she was hallucinating that night, he whispered. She said someone was listening outside. That must have been you. Elena nodded barely. She said your silence was the bravest sound she'd ever heard. He blinked hard, jaw locking as if to hold the tears in place. She always said things like that. Made pain sound poetic. That's not poetry, Elena said softly. That's comprehension. The wind outside shifted, rattling the hangar door. A distant roar, a departing jet, filled the pause between them. Ryan moved toward the photos on the wall. I don't remember the last mission clearly, just the radio static. Then someone shouting. Then, nothing. He turned back. You were there when they brought her in, weren't you? I was. She said your name? She did. She said, when he stops fighting the sky, tell him it's safe to land. Ryan exhaled like a man letting out years. His shoulders slumped. A sliver of armor slipping an inch. I wish I could believe that landing still exists. Elena met his eyes. It does. You just keep circling it because you think she's on the runway. He looked away, voice raw. Maybe she is. From the doorway, a new sound. Light footsteps. Lily and Grace peeked in, hair still damp from baths, pink sweaters under their jackets. Daddy, Grace called softly. We came to bring Mommy's music. He smiled, kneeling as they ran into his arms. You already did, he murmured. Lily held up a small toy pilot's logbook, edges covered in stickers. We're keeping Mommy's letters in here now, so they don't get lonely when we sleep. Elena crouched beside them. That's beautiful. Pilots need logs, even for love missions. Ryan looked at her, almost smiling. You're getting fluent in our language. Occupational hazard. The girls climbed onto a low bench, setting the music box between them. They wound it again. This time the melody didn't skip. For once, it played clean through. Soft, unwavering. See? Grace said proudly. It only works when we're all here. Elena's gaze flicked toward Ryan. He met her eyes and nodded once. Not military, but grateful. When the song ended, the twins yawned. Can we sleep in the hangar tonight? Lily asked. Ryan laughed quietly. No, little co-pilots. Pilots need rest before dawn missions. Will you dream of Mommy? Grace asked. I think she'll dream of us tonight, he answered. As they left the room, the faint music still lingered, an aftertone without source, or maybe the echo of memory restitched. Ryan turned off the light but didn't close the door all the way. Outside, the air had cooled to velvet. The stars above the airfield flickered like coordinates. Elena walked beside him toward the parking lot. She wanted me to find you, Ryan said at last. She said you'd know what to do when the flight plan ran out. Elena looked at him, the wind carrying her words slower than speech. Then maybe this isn't about fixing what's broken. Maybe it's about finishing what's unfinished. He nodded, a slow surrender. You really think people like us get to finish things? Yes, she said. If they remember to begin again. They stopped at her car. The twins were already asleep in the back seat, heads resting together, their pink sleeves brushing. Ryan stood there a moment longer, unwilling to break the stillness. Thank you, he said. For what? For being the voice in the doorway. Elena smiled, starting the car. Then keep it open. The headlights swept across the tarmac, catching the metallic gleam of Amelia's locker for the briefest instant, a quiet monument in the half-dark. As Elena drove away, Ryan stood where the hangar light met the night, between duty and peace, between the past and the promise he hadn't yet learned to claim. The faint melody replayed in his head, complete this time. And somewhere between sound and silence, he smiled. Not for Amelia, not for Elena, but for the man finally learning to breathe again. By Sunday morning, the sky above Albright Air Force Base had the clean, untroubled blue that pilots secretly distrust. Clear skies meant nothing to fear, and nothing to hide behind. Inside the base family housing, Lily and Grace were already awake, their pink sweaters swapped for matching overalls patterned with tiny clouds. They whispered near the kitchen counter, plotting something with the intensity of a classified mission. On the table sat a note written in blocky 6-year-old handwriting. Operation Pancake Objective. Make Daddy smile before breakfast briefing. Elena arrived at 8 sharp, hair tied back, a small paper bag of oranges in one hand. The door was unlocked. She hesitated at the threshold, then stepped in, greeted by the smell of flour, syrup, and chaos. The twins had turned the kitchen into a war zone of joy. Bowls stacked like barricades, batter splattered across the counter, utensils scattered like fallen soldiers. And in the middle of it all stood Captain Ryan Hale, still in his gray undershirt, whisk in hand, looking utterly defeated by 2 miniature generals. He turned as she entered. We're under siege, he said. They outnumbered me at dawn. Lily saluted with a wooden spoon. We're cooking for peace, Grace corrected her. For pancakes. Elena laughed, an easy, unguarded sound that startled even her. Permission to assist the troops? Granted, Ryan said, handing her the whisk with mock gravity. You're now head of morale. She mixed the batter, the air fragrant with vanilla. The twins watched as if it were a sacred ritual. Ryan leaned against the counter, arms folded, observing them all with a quiet wonder he didn't bother disguising. Mommy used to make pancakes that looked like airplanes, Lily said. But Daddy's always make crash landings. Elena looked at him. We'll fix that. Grace pointed at the skillet. Make it fly before it flips. Ryan raised a brow. You heard the command, Doctor. She poured a ladle of batter onto the pan, steady hand, circular motion, not perfect, but deliberate. When she flipped it, the golden shape puffed slightly at the edge, forming what could, if you squinted, resemble wings. Aircraft secured, Elena announced. The twins clapped. Ryan smiled. Not the polite smile of an officer, nor the guarded one from the restaurant. This was something else. Uncalculated, almost bashful. It was the first true smile she'd seen on him. He caught her looking and pretended not to notice. So, this is what therapy looks like. Pancakes? Sometimes healing starts in the smallest airspaces, she replied. When breakfast was done, they sat together at the table, syrup pooling like sunlight. Lily and Grace took turns telling stories about their mother, the songs she sang, the silly flight metaphors she used for bedtime. Prepare for dream landing. Captain to control tower, requesting hug clearance. Ryan listened, fork idle. Elena could see the memories moving through him like currents under ice, thawing, not breaking. After the meal, the twins ran outside to play near the courtyard fountain. Ryan stayed behind, washing dishes with methodical precision. Elena stood beside him, drying plates. Their shoulders brushed once, lightly. She always said I'd turn grief into a routine, he said quietly. Elena looked up. And did you? I turned it into orders, missions, debriefings, anything that sounded like control. Control keeps planes steady, she said. But people don't fly that way. He nodded, eyes on the soap bubbles. I know. Then, after a pause, the girls call this house base home, not home base. They say it sounds more temporary that way. Maybe they learned that from me. They also learned how to make pancakes that almost fly, she said. That's progress. He chuckled. Soft, genuine. Progress. I'll take that. From outside, Grace's voice echoed, Daddy, come see. We made a runway for the pancakes. Ryan wiped his hands, stepping out onto the porch. The girls had lined up their pancakes on the fountain's edge, dusted with powdered sugar like snow. One had a syrup trail across it. A crash site, apparently. Looks like we lost Flight Syrup 7, he said gravely. Lily gasped. Emergency landing. He knelt, examining their creation. Not bad, co-pilots. You might save aviation history yet. Elena stood at the doorway, watching them. The sunlight framed them in gold, the air filled with laughter. For a moment, the scene was so ordinary it hurt, because ordinary was the one miracle war never gives back. When the twins ran off chasing bubbles, Ryan lingered by the fountain. His reflection wavered beside the pancakes, the metals of syrup and crumbs. She would have loved this, he murmured. You have her steadiness. Elena turned, startled. What? He met her gaze, steady, direct. You remind me of Amelia, not in how you look, in how you listen. Something caught in her throat. She wanted to say thank you, but gratitude felt too small for what had just been handed to her. Instead, she said, Then maybe she's the one helping both of us. Ryan nodded. Maybe she is. A silence followed. But it wasn't hollow. It was full of everything unsaid and understood. From the garden, Lily shouted, Daddy! We're flying the leftover ones! He blinked, looking up. Flying? Before he could finish, 2 pancakes sailed through the air like sugary comets. One hit his shoulder, the other splattered harmlessly near Elena's shoe. Grace squealed with triumph. Direct hit, she shouted. Ryan wiped syrup off his sleeve, mock scowling. You two are grounded. Elena laughed so hard she doubled over. The sound, her laughter mixing with his, felt like a new kind of hymn, one the house hadn't heard in years. When the twins finally tired, Ryan carried them inside, one in each arm. Elena followed quietly, collecting the dishes, her heart strangely full. In the hallway, She saw the music box resting on a shelf. The lid was open, the key wound halfway. Without thinking, she turned it once. The melody rose, whole, unbroken. Ryan appeared behind her, voice low. "You fixed it?" She shook her head. "Maybe it was never broken. Maybe it just needed to be heard." He said nothing, just stood there. An airman surrounded by the simplest, most dangerous thing of all, peace. When the song ended, Elena glanced at him. "Thank you for letting me see this side of your world." Ryan smiled faintly. "Thank you for reminding me it's still mine." Outside, the twins' laughter echoed once more before fading into the quiet of afternoon. And somewhere between pancakes and memory, the sound of "Fly Me to the Moon" lingered, no longer a ghost, but a bridge. By dusk, the clouds had thickened over Albright Air Force Base, heavy and gray, like old regrets waiting for permission to fall. The weather alert had come in half an hour ago, a fast-moving system from the coast, unpredictable, electric. To most of the base, it meant grounded flights and postponed drills. To Captain Ryan Hale, it meant staying awake. He had learned long ago that storms never came from the sky alone. Elena was at the infirmary that evening, volunteering for the weekend shift. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see the base flickering with amber warning lights, small suns against the growing dark. In her pocket was her phone, screen lighting up with a new message. It was from Lily. Mommy's song stopped playing. "The box won't open. Daddy's flying inside." She read it twice, her chest tightening around the childlike syntax. Daddy's flying inside. In the language of 6-year-olds, that could mean so many things. She grabbed her coat and ran into the rain. At the Hale quarters, the power had already cut once, then again. A lantern glowed faintly in the living room. The twins were crouched in a blanket fort, pink sweaters bright in the dimness. Ryan sat near the window, flashlight pressed between his knees, the storm reflecting in his eyes. He didn't look up when she entered. "You shouldn't be driving in this," he said quietly. "I wasn't driving through it," Elena replied. "I was driving to it." That drew the faintest smile. But his hands trembled when he handed her the music box. "It jammed," he said. "They started crying. I couldn't fix it." Elena turned the key gently, but it resisted. The spring locked tight. She didn't force it. Instead, she looked at the twins. "You two did the right thing calling me," she said. Lily sniffed. "We thought Mommy's song was scared." Elena crouched beside them. "Sometimes even songs need a little help remembering the tune." The thunder cracked so close it rattled the glasses in the cabinet. Grace flinched, then climbed into her father's lap. He wrapped his arms around her automatically, pilot's reflex turning into father's instinct. "I know how to rescue airmen from war," he said under his breath. "I just don't know how to rescue myself from her absence." The sentence fell like a confession to the storm. Elena stayed still for a moment, watching the lightning chase itself across his features. The strength, the fatigue, the unspoken plea. Then she said softly, "Then let someone else pull you out this time." He looked up, not startled, just seen. Her eyes held him the way flight holds a wing steady against turbulence. "I don't even know how to begin," he murmured. "You already did," she said. "You called me. Even if through them." Grace lifted her head. "Are you fighting, Daddy?" Ryan shook his head. "No, sweetheart. We're learning how to land." The power went out again, plunging the room into thick darkness except for the flashlight beam trembling on the floor. The rain intensified, drumming the windows like 1,000 restless fingers. Elena felt her way to the kitchen, found candles, lit 3, one for each of them. Their flames steadied slowly, small but stubborn. "Remember the breathing game?" she asked the girls. "Blue for calm," Lily said. "Red for brave," Grace added. "Purple for memory," Elena finished. Ryan watched them breathe in rhythm, tiny chests rising and falling. Their hair shimmered in candlelight. For a moment, the storm seemed to hush just to listen. Elena turned back to the music box. Her fingers traced the hinge, bent slightly, probably from years of gentle overuse. She reached for a screwdriver from Ryan's toolbox and adjusted the clasp. When she turned the key again, it gave a soft click, and the song began. The melody was thin at first, hesitant, as if waking from sleep. Then the notes steadied, the same lullaby that had survived tense years and silence. The twins sighed in relief, swaying slightly, eyes half closed. Ryan closed his eyes too. He wasn't crying. Not yet. But his breathing deepened, the kind that comes after years of holding air hostage. Elena placed the music box on the table. "Amelia once said music is what keeps us from turning pain into metal," she whispered. Ryan nodded. She would know. The thunder rolled away toward the mountains, softer now, as if it had finished its work. Grace fell asleep first, then Lily, curled together like halves of one heartbeat. Elena covered them with a blanket. Ryan sat motionless, eyes on the candlelight reflecting in the rain. "I used to think grief was a place," he said. "But maybe it's a bridge." "To where?" she asked. He met her eyes. "To everything you still love, but can't hold." Elena leaned forward, voice steady. "Then you've already crossed halfway." Outside, the wind dropped to a whisper. The bass was quiet again. Radios muted, turbines still. Only the faint hum of the repaired music box filled the air, its last note stretching long and clear, refusing to break. Ryan looked at her then, really looked, and the distance between airman and survivor, between therapist and woman, thinned to a single human breath. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For not telling me to move on." She smiled faintly. "You don't move on from love. You move with it." He reached across the table and covered her hand with his, the simplest, most fragile truce two hearts could sign. Neither of them spoke again. The rain tapped the windows like a soft applause for the living, and when the lights finally flickered back on, the twins stirred under their blanket but did not wake. Elena turned down the wick of the last candle, watching its smoke twist upward, the storm's final echo. She whispered almost to herself, "Tomorrow, the sky will be clean again." Ryan answered quietly, "And maybe so will we." Outside, dawn's first light began to edge the clouds, pale and forgiving. Morning found Albright Air Force Base washed clean, the storm rinsed away but not forgotten. The air smelled of wet metal and pine. From Ryan's porch, you could see puddles glinting like broken mirrors, and two little girls in pink sweaters hopping between them, their laughter sharper than the lingering chill. Inside, Elena folded the blanket that had kept them warm through the night. The house was quiet, except for the distant hum of the bass slowly returning to routine. Ryan stood near the window, hair still damp, holding a small tin box in both hands, the kind of box service members keep long after it stops being useful. He turned it over once, thumb tracing the hinge. "This used to hold medals," he said. "Then letters. Then nothing." Elena set the blanket down. "And now?" He stared at it. "Now it holds a choice." She waited. Silence was sometimes the only permission a heart needed to keep speaking. Finally, he opened it. Inside lay 3 objects: a silver air medal, slightly tarnished, a folded flight patch with his squadron emblem, and a letter sealed with a strip of faded blue ribbon. Amelia's handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable. Steady, confident, knowing. Ryan exhaled. "I've never opened this one." Elena's pulse slowed. "You think it's the rest of the letter?" He nodded. "I found it a week after the hospital. The commander handed it to me in silence, said it was addressed to the man who still listens to the sky. Took me a year to realize she meant me." He tried to unseal it, but his fingers hesitated halfway, as if muscle memory itself refused. "Do you want me to?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "No. If anyone should open it, it's the girls. She wrote for them too, even when she didn't know she was." They waited until Lily and Grace ran in, cheeks flushed from the puddles, hair dripping. "Daddy, the clouds are flying low today." Ryan smiled faintly. "Then let's read something your mother left behind." He sat on the floor, the twins crawling into his lap, the pink of their sweaters pressed against the dull gray of his flight pants. He handed Lily the envelope. She tore the ribbon carefully, as if unwrapping something alive. Inside were 2 sheets of paper. The ink had faded in spots, but Amelia's hand was still firm. Ryan read aloud, voice trembling only once. "My loves, if this reaches you, it means the sky kept its promise. It held me long enough to write. There are 3 things I need you to know. Grief is not loyalty. It's gravity. You can honor me and still climb. The medals don't shine without fingerprints. Let the girls touch them. Let them play. If you ever smile again, let them see the part of me that still lives in you. Love is not leaving. It's staying in different weather. Amelia." No one moved for a long while. The words hung between them, like sunlight sifting through rain clouds, warm but weighty. Grace reached into the box and lifted the medal, turning it so the dull silver caught the morning light. "Mommy said we can touch it," she whispered. Ryan nodded. She did. Lily pinned it to his shirt pocket, her fingers fumbling with the clasp. "Now you're wearing her again." He swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said softly. "Maybe I am." Elena looked at him. Not the officer, not the widower, but the man trying to let himself exist in sunlight again. "What will you do with the rest of the things?" He thought for a moment. "Keep them out of boxes." Then, as if remembering something, he turned toward her. "You know what's strange? That medal. It was awarded for pulling 2 men from a burning aircraft. Everyone said it was courage, but all I felt was fear." "Courage always feels like fear before it looks like bravery," she said. He smiled faintly. "You should write that down for the Air Force handbook." Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, can we give Mommy a new medal?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" Grace answered, matter of fact. "One for love, because love didn't crash." Ryan's throat closed. He nodded slowly. "Yes. We'll make one tonight." Elena bit her lip, blinking fast. "You've got 2 brilliant engineers right there," she said. 3, Ryan added, glancing at her. "If you count the one who fixed the music box." Her laugh was quiet, shy. "I'll take that rank." That afternoon, they drove to the base workshop. Lily and Grace insisted on designing the love medal themselves. A circle cut from spare aluminum, painted with pink nail polish, strung on a piece of parachute cord. They engraved it, carefully, letter by letter, using a stamping tool Ryan guided with his steady pilot hands. When they were done, the words shimmered unevenly but proud. "For the one who stayed through the storm." Ryan hung it beside his old medals on the mantel. For once, the shine didn't look foreign in the house. It belonged. As evening fell, the twins curled on the couch, drawing clouds in their notebooks. Elena and Ryan stood by the window, watching the sunset bruise from orange to lavender. "Do you ever think she planned this?" he asked quietly. "Amelia?" He nodded. "Yes," Elena said. "But not like a plan. More like faith that the right people would find each other when the world was done taking." He was silent a moment, then whispered, "She would have liked you." "She already does," Elena said. "You just can't hear her applause yet." Ryan turned toward her, expression soft. "Do you believe in things like that? People cheering from somewhere else?" "I believe in echoes," she said. "And you sound a little more alive every time you speak." He smiled, that slow, hesitant kind again. "That's terrifying." "Good," she said. "It means you're landing." Outside, the lights on the runway blinked in sequence, steady, rhythmic, a language of safe return. Ryan looked out, the metal glinting faintly on his chest. "You know," he murmured, "for years I thought duty taught me everything. Turns out, love's been the harder manual to read." Elena met his gaze. "Then let's study it together." He nodded, eyes glistening with the gentlest surrender. "Lesson 1?" She smiled. "You already learned it?" You opened the box. He let out a soft laugh, quiet but whole. Behind them, the twins had fallen asleep mid-doodle, crayons still in their hands, pink sweaters tangled like petals. Ryan looked at them, then at Elena. "They're her echoes, too." "Yes," Elena whispered. "And maybe you're the melody." The house went still, filled with the delicate peace that follows a long storm. Outside, a faint wind stirred, not fierce this time, just enough to make the metal by the window chime once, a tiny silver sound that seemed to agree. The next morning dawned with that kind of gentle light that only appears after long storms, tender, hesitant, as if testing whether it was safe to shine again. Inside the Hale house, the kitchen table was buried under papers, crayons, and tiny scissors. Lily and Grace were hunched over a mess of pink and blue construction paper, whispering in the secret rhythm of twins. Ryan watched from the doorway, still half in uniform, coffee mug in hand. "Operation Breakfast?" he asked. "No," said Lily, not looking up. "Operation Butterfly." Grace added, "We're doing drills." Elena, who had arrived early with bagels and a thermos of cocoa, raised a brow. "Drills?" "Happy drills," Grace clarified. "Mommy used to make Daddy do them before missions." Ryan frowned slightly. "She did?" "Uh-huh," Lily said, pointing at a sheet covered with uneven handwriting. "We found them in her old journal." Elena leaned closer. Across the page, in Amelia's looping script, were 3 lines, each ending with a little doodle of wings. Butterfly drill. For Ryan and whoever helps him fly again. Mission 1. Laugh 5 times a day. Even fake counts. Mission 2. Sing 1 song Mommy used to love. Mission 3. Say thank you before sleeping. Ryan stared at the words, silent. He remembered Amelia teasing him before takeoffs, calling his laughter classified information. He hadn't realized she had turned it into an assignment. Grace looked up at him. "We're going to make sure you do it." "Oh?" he said softly. "Is that an order?" Lily nodded, very solemn. "We're the commanding officers now," Elena smiled. "I'd advise compliance, Captain." Ryan sighed, mock dramatic. "Then I guess I'm grounded until further notice." The first mission began immediately. Grace pointed to the paper. Laugh 5 times. Ryan crossed his arms. That's excessive for a weekday. Fake counts, Lily reminded. So he tried. A short chuckle, then another, until real laughter snuck in halfway, the kind that starts uncertain but ends unstoppable. Elena found herself laughing too, and the sound filled the kitchen, startling even the clock into silence. That's 1 mission complete, Lily declared. Negative, Grace corrected. We need 4 more. Elena grinned. Don't worry, life tends to supply plenty of material. Mission 2 was harder. After lunch, the twins handed him the music box, newly polished. Sing with it, Grace said. He hesitated. I don't sing. Mommy said you used to, Lily whispered. Elena caught his gaze. It's not about how you sound. It's about whether the words remember you. He turned the key. The melody began, soft, uncertain. And then quietly, Ryan started to hum. His voice was rough, fragile as uncut glass. But when the chorus arrived, "Fly me to the moon," he managed a full line before his voice cracked. He stopped, exhaling. That's all I've got. Elena said gently, That's all it takes. Grace clapped. Mission 2 complete. Almost, Lily said. We have to sing too. They joined in, off-key but pure, their small voices filling the room. Ryan smiled without realizing it, the kind of smile that belonged to no one but the moment. That evening, after the girls went to bed, Elena stayed behind. She helped clear the table, her movements quiet, almost reverent. Ryan poured 2 mugs of cocoa, handing her one. I used to think healing was supposed to look dramatic, he said, like an explosion of clarity. But this, he gestured toward the folded butterfly papers and crayons. It feels like slow air. That's exactly what it is, she said. Slow air. He leaned against the counter. When Amelia died, I promised myself I'd never need help again. I thought it was strength. It was just loneliness, dressed in uniform. She knew you'd think that, Elena said softly. That's why she left you the drills. He smiled faintly. You think she'd be proud? I think she already is. Later that night, when the twins called for their bedtime ritual, Elena followed Ryan into their room. The air smelled of crayons and lavender. Each girl had taped a paper butterfly to the headboard, hand-cut wings fluttering slightly in the fan's breeze. Mission 3, Lily said sleepily. Say thank you before sleep. Ryan knelt between their beds. All right, co-pilots, you start. Grace whispered, Thank you for pancakes. Lily added, Thank you for music. They looked at Elena expectantly. She hesitated, then said, Thank you for letting me fly with you. Ryan looked at her, the candlelight painting warmth over the fatigue in his eyes. He cleared his throat. Thank you, he said softly, for coming back when I didn't ask you to. The girls were already half asleep, but their smiles stayed. The room dimmed to soft shadows. The music box on the nightstand ticked once, then seemed to find its own start. The melody, smooth, full, whole. Ryan glanced at it, whispering almost to himself, She always knew how to find her way home. Elena looked at the twins, 2 small shapes breathing in perfect rhythm, and felt a stillness she hadn't known she was missing. In the hallway, Ryan stopped her before she reached the door. Earlier, he said, you told me to let someone pull me out of the wreck. I didn't realize you meant you. She met his eyes. I didn't either. Not until tonight. For a moment, neither moved. The quiet between them was dense, Not with tension, but with recognition. Two survivors meeting in the middle of a sentence that had taken years to finish. Ryan looked down at his hands. The girls think this is about laughter and thank yous. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's about letting the air back in, she said. So you can breathe where it used to hurt. He nodded slowly. Then we'll keep breathing. She smiled. One mission at a time. Outside, the night air hummed softly through the open window. The paper butterflies rustled like tiny applause. On the table downstairs, one of the folded wings had come loose, revealing a faint line Amelia had scribbled on the back of the drill page years ago. Barely legible, but enough. When love returns, don't salute it. Hold it. Ryan found it just before midnight, and for the first time in 3 years, he wept without hiding his face. The following week, Albright Air Force Base prepared for National Remembrance Day, a day of flags, folded letters, and speeches that sounded strong enough to hide the tremor underneath. Every hangar gleamed, every uniform pressed to perfection. But inside the Hale home, the preparations were quieter. There were no speeches here, only decisions. Ryan stood by the mirror, fastening the silver air medal to his chest. His reflection was immaculate, but his eyes betrayed him. In the corner of the room, 2 little girls watched with hushed awe, wearing matching pink cardigans over white dresses, ribbons braided into their hair. "Daddy," Grace whispered, "are you going to walk with the loud people again?" Ryan smiled gently. "It's called a parade, sweetheart." Lily tilted her head. "Then why do they call it Silence Day at school?" He paused. "Because sometimes silence says what words can't." Behind them, Elena adjusted her own jacket, the soft navy of a civilian therapist's coat. She had been invited to stand with the family section, and she would walk with the family section toward the plaza, not as doctor, not as guest, but as witness. The sun rose slowly, melting through mist that still clung to the runways. Crowds gathered along the boulevard leading toward the Memorial Plaza. Rows of officers stood at attention. Brass glinted like fire. Banners fluttered overhead, their threads catching light like memory refusing to fade. When the band began, the first drumbeat rolled through the air like a heartbeat. Ryan fell into step with his unit, his daughters walking at his side, their hands tucked into his. Elena followed just a pace behind, her presence an invisible anchor. The world felt unbearably still between drumbeats. Halfway down the boulevard, Grace tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, can we show them now?" He looked down, puzzled. "Show who what?" Lily lifted the framed photograph she'd been carrying under her arm. Amelia, smiling in her flight jacket, hair tied back by the wind. The twins held it high for everyone to see. "She's watching, Daddy." The sentence cut through the solemn music like a bell of pure light. The crowd quieted. Even the band faltered for half a bar. Ryan's step wavered, his throat constricted, and for a heartbeat he almost stopped marching altogether. Then he exhaled, long, steady, and looked toward the photograph. "Yes," he whispered. "She is." The girls kept the frame raised until they reached the plaza. Elena walked beside them, one hand lightly steadying the picture when the wind caught it. Behind them, hundreds of service members moved as one, a tide of uniforms following 2 pink cardigans and a memory too alive to die. When they reached the memorial, the music faded into quiet. Ryan lifted Grace into his arms so she could see the names etched in bronze. Lily pressed her small palm to the panel where Amelia Hale was engraved, the letters cool under her fingertips. "Does it hurt?" she asked softly. Ryan bent down, voice trembling. "Not the way it used to. Now it just remembers." Elena stood a few feet away, eyes on the reflection of the family in the polished surface. 3 living figures framed by one name that still held them all. A butterfly drifted down from somewhere above, improbable in the November air. Grace gasped. "Look, Mommy's butterfly came." The insect landed on the metal pinned to Ryan's chest, wings pulsing like a heartbeat. The entire plaza seemed to inhale. Even the colonel nearby lowered his cap. Elena felt her throat tighten. She thought of Amelia's note. "When love returns, don't salute it. Hold it." Ryan extended his free hand. Elena took it without hesitation. For once, he didn't stand at attention. He simply stood alive. After the ceremony, the 4 of them walked toward the base cafeteria for hot cocoa. The band's distant echo still lingered in the air, half hymn, half heartbeat. Lily carried the photo carefully, while Grace swung her feet with the weightless joy of a child who has made peace with the sky. Ryan stopped near the fountain by the plaza's edge. The water shimmered under late sunlight. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the love medal the girls had made. Aluminum, pink polish dulled by time. The words engraved in crooked letters. "For the one who stayed through the storm." He held it for a moment, then set it gently on the fountain's rim, where water could kiss it every time the wind blew. "Not leaving it behind," he said quietly. "Just letting it rest where it can listen." Elena smiled. "Like she does." He turned to her, expression tender. "Do you ever think she sent you?" Elena met his gaze without flinching. "No, I think she invited me." Ryan's eyes softened. "There's a difference?" "Yes," she said. "One feels like duty. The other feels like home." He stood silent for a long time, then whispered, "Home," as if the word itself might finally fit in his mouth again. When they reached the car, Lily climbed in first, yawning. Grace was half asleep already, her head against Elena's shoulder. Ryan paused before closing the door, watching them. 2 small, breathing proofs that love, when held gently, doesn't vanish. It multiplies. The parade music drifted faintly from the plaza behind them. But what Ryan heard wasn't the march. It was the music box. Soft, impossible, echoing somewhere between the heart and the horizon. He glanced at Elena, and she smiled. "I think," he said, "this is what peace sounds like." Elena nodded. "Then keep listening." They drove home under a sky rinsed clean. No thunder, no orders, no ghosts demanding attention. Just light. And behind them, the butterfly still clung to the fountain edge, wings trembling in rhythm with the water. A silent salute that didn't need to be returned. 1 year later, Candlelight Terrace looked exactly as it had the night everything began. Golden light spilling through rain-streaked glass, piano music drifting just loud enough to stir old ghosts. But tonight, there were no empty chairs. At table 7, 2 little girls in matching pink sweaters sat swinging their legs, whispering like conspirators. Lily glanced at the door every few seconds. "He's nervous," she announced. Grace giggled. "He said his hands forgot how to be soldiers." Elena smiled from her seat, though her heart raced with its own quiet rhythm. She still came here sometimes. The restaurant had become a bookmark in all their stories. But tonight felt different. She didn't know what exactly was about to happen, only that the twins did, and that they were terrible at keeping secrets. The waiter, an older man with kind eyes, approached with a grin. "Your usual table again?" "Yes," said Lily, rehearsed. "We're waiting for our father." He chuckled. "The captain with the medal?" Grace nodded proudly. "The captain who laughs now." Outside, the rain softened to a drizzle. Through the glass, Elena saw a familiar silhouette cross the street, tall, broad-shouldered, steady despite the small box he held. Captain Ryan Hale, in full dress uniform. He paused under the awning, drew one long breath, and stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed, the same chime from a year ago. "Daddy's not late," Grace declared. "He's just nervous." Ryan froze for a heartbeat, smiling when he saw the three of them. It was the kind of smile that no longer fought its way out of grief. It simply existed, unforced, belonging entirely to the present. He walked toward them slowly, boots quiet on the wood floor. The restaurant seemed to hush around him. Even the pianist looked up, hands suspended above the keys. When he reached the table, Ryan set the box down and knelt on one knee. Elena's breath caught. "Ryan, what are you doing?" He smiled, that same shy, impossibly warm curve of the lips. "Sometimes love doesn't arrive on time," he said softly. "Sometimes it wears a uniform." The twins gasped, bouncing in their seats. "Mission proposal!" Grace squealed. He opened the box. Inside, instead of a ring, lay a folded airline tag, a gold chain threaded through its loop, engraved with tiny letters. Home Base. E. Ward. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth. "Ryan?" He looked up at her, eyes steady, voice gentle. "You taught me how to come home, Elena. You pulled me out of the cockpit I built around my grief. You made me laugh again, and not the kind that hides. I don't know if I can promise you calm skies, but I can promise you landing lights." Her tears blurred everything. The twins, the lights, the soft hum of the room. Grace whispered urgently, "Say yes before he runs out of courage." Elena laughed through the tears. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Captain." The girls cheered. The waiter clapped. Even the pianist found the melody again, the same one the music box had played all year, now woven into the restaurant's air like it belonged there. Later, outside under the awning, the rain began again. Not a storm this time, just a soft drizzle that made the streetlights bloom into halos. Ryan held the twins' hands while Elena stood beside him. They were quiet for a while, watching the reflections ripple across the pavement. Grace tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, are you happy?" Ryan smiled down at her. "I think so." Lily leaned closer to Elena. "Mommy said love makes Daddy forget the war inside him." Elena bent down and kissed the top of her head. Then she was right. Ryan glanced upward. "Do you think she's watching?" Elena nodded. "Always. Maybe she's the reason the rain stopped fighting." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the love medal the girls had made, worn now, edges dulled smooth by fingers and time. He held it up, letting the streetlight catch it. "She sent her best reinforcements," he said quietly. Elena laughed softly. "And they outrank you already." "Mutiny by affection," he said. "Worst kind." "Best kind," she corrected. They both laughed. Real laughter, full and unguarded. The twins joined in, clapping their hands, their pink sleeves darkened by mist. The music from inside drifted out as the door opened. "Fly Me to the Moon" once again, looping softly through time. Ryan turned toward Elena, eyes shining. "You know," he said, "it took me 17 minutes the night we met. 17 exact minutes. To realize you were the rest of the sentence Amelia never finished. I didn't realize until later," he added, "that 17 had been Amelia's number first." Elena swallowed, voice barely audible. "And what sentence was that?" He smiled. "If you ever smile again, Let them see the part of me that still lives in you. Her eyes filled. You just did. He reached for her hand. The same hand that had steadied his daughter's, rewound the music box, and opened his heart's hangar door. Then, he whispered, mission complete. The four of them stepped out into the rain. Ryan scooped up the twins, one on each arm, their laughter echoing under the night. Elena held the umbrella above them, though none of them seemed to mind getting wet. The restaurant's sign glowed faintly behind them, its reflection stretching across the street, the same road that once led a broken man to a miracle he hadn't believed in. The music still played inside, carried faintly by the wind, and for the first time, Ryan didn't flinch when he heard Amelia's favorite note. He just smiled, a quiet salute to the woman who had built a bridge strong enough for another to cross. Elena looked up at him, rain tracing the lines of his jaw, her voice barely a whisper. Duty taught you how to fight. He nodded. And love taught you how to come home, she finished. They stood together under the soft rain, two hearts and two small miracles between them. The kind of peace that doesn't erase the past, only redeems it. The streetlight flickered once, turning the world gold for a heartbeat. And in that brief, perfect moment, it was impossible to tell whether the shimmer on Ryan's metal came from the rain, the light, or the tears of a man finally, completely, at peace. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds of the Hale home, not the hesitant light of recovery anymore, but the warm, certain kind that fills every corner without asking permission. The storm was a memory, the grief an echo. What remained was something quieter, something sacred. On the living room wall hung a new photograph. 4 faces pressed close together, Ryan, Elena, Lily, and Grace, all laughing mid-motion, eyes half closed, light caught in their hair. Behind them, on the mantel, the love medal rested between 2 other objects, the repaired music box and Amelia's folded letter sealed in glass. Outside, the base was alive with movement. Today wasn't a parade or a ceremony, just another ordinary morning, which made it extraordinary. Elena woke first. The house was still, but she could hear soft voices down the hall. When she stepped into the kitchen, she saw them. Ryan in his white undershirt, his daughters perched on the counter in pink sweaters, their small hands busy tying a ribbon around a wooden frame. Grace grinned when she noticed her. "Good morning, Mommy Elena." The word landed softly, like a feather, and yet it filled the room with something larger than sound. Ryan's eyes met hers, tender, a little uncertain, and full of a gratitude words couldn't hold. Elena touched the frame they were decorating. Inside was a photograph of Amelia, smiling from the cockpit of her old aircraft, hair whipping in the wind. Beneath it, the twins had printed in colored marker, "Thank you for teaching Daddy to land." Elena blinked back sudden tears. "It's beautiful," she said. Lily nodded seriously. "We're putting it on the wall next to the medal." "Why there?" Elena asked. "Because Mommy's medal gets lonely without her picture," Grace replied, as if the logic were obvious. Ryan chuckled softly. "I stopped arguing with their theories months ago." After breakfast, they drove toward the airfield. The sky was wide open, the kind of blue Amelia would have called flyable. The twins had packed their toy binoculars, determined to help Daddy watch the clouds. At the runway's edge, the air shimmered with heat and memory. Ryan parked the car and sat for a moment, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. "This was where they called me the day she went down," he said quietly. "For years, I couldn't drive this road without feeling like I was trespassing on a ghost." Elena reached over, covering his hand. "And today?" He looked at her. "Today it feels like a return." They stepped out together, The twins ran ahead, their laughter skimming the tarmac like wing beats. Ryan followed, slower, his boots echoing on the concrete. He reached the fence that bordered the launch strip and set down the small satchel he'd brought. From it, he pulled the love medal, the music box, and Amelia's sealed letter. He arranged them carefully at the base of the fence post. Elena stood beside him, understanding without being told. Ryan turned the key on the music box. The melody began. Soft, strong, steady. When the first notes rose, the wind shifted, carrying the sound across the airfield. "I used to come here to remember what I'd lost," he said. "Now I come to remember what I've kept." Elena slipped her arm through his. "That's what love is, Ryan. Not a replacement. A continuation." He nodded slowly. "I think she knew that long before I did." They stood like that for a while, the song unraveling into the sky. When it ended, Ryan took the medal from the ground and pinned it to his jacket pocket. Then he turned to Elena. "You know, I never told you why I called it the 17-minute miracle." She smiled. "Because that's how long it took you to fall in love?" He shook his head gently. "Because that's how long Amelia's last flight lasted. 17 minutes from takeoff to silence. For years, that number meant ending to me. Now, it means beginning." Elena's eyes filled again. "She'd like that." "She'd like you," he said. "She already said so once, remember?" Elena blinked, puzzled. "When?" He smiled faintly. "Every time the twins laugh. That's her voice, telling me I got it right." The afternoon drifted softly. Lily and Grace lay on the grass nearby, shaping clouds into stories. "That one looks like Mommy's plane," Grace said. "No," Lily corrected. "That one looks like Daddy's heart." Ryan laughed. "Hearts don't have wings, Lily." "They do now," she said simply. Elena watched him. The man who once spoke only in orders, now fluent in wonder. He sat down beside her on the grass, elbows on knees, shoulders relaxed. "You know," he said, "for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm waiting for deployment." "You're already where you were meant to be," she said. He looked at her, long, steady. "Then I guess this is home." She smiled. "Home base." He chuckled, glancing at the chain around her neck. The gold tag engraved with those same words. "Still carrying your rank, I see." "Always," she said. The twins ran up, breathless. "Daddy! Butterflies!" Dozens of them, pale yellow and white, drifted across the field, moving with the breeze like pieces of sunlight let loose. One landed on Elena's hand, wings opening and closing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Ryan's voice was soft. "Looks like Amelia's back on duty." Elena looked up at him, the butterfly still resting in her palm. "Or maybe she's finally off it." They stood together in silence, watching the field shimmer with life. That evening, back at Candlelight Terrace, they had dinner in the same corner where it all began. No music box this time, just the low hum of conversation, the clink of glasses, and the sound of the twins laughing at their father's attempt to draw airplanes on napkins. When dessert came, the waiter brought something extra, a single candle, unlit. Lily frowned. "What's that for?" Elena smiled. "For remembering." Ryan struck a match and lit it. The flame wavered once, then steadied. "For Amelia," he said quietly. "For love," Elena added. "And for pancakes," Grace declared. Everyone laughed, the kind of laughter that felt like music finally finishing its own chorus. When they left the restaurant, the night was gentle and windless. The streetlights glowed gold on wet pavement. Ryan held the door for them, then stood for a moment, looking out into the city that had once felt too loud for healing. Elena slipped her arm through his. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. "Always." As they walked toward the car, Lily looked up at the sky and whispered, "Mommy's flying home." Elena squeezed her hand. "Yes, sweetheart. She's been home all along." Ryan turned, looking back once at Candlelight Terrace, the place where grief had become grace, and where love had learned to arrive again wearing a uniform. He exhaled, slow and deep, the way a man does when he finally sets down a weight he's carried too far. Then he smiled, that quiet, unguarded smile that belonged only to peace. The rain-washed pavement shimmered under the streetlight, not from storm water, but from the reflection of 4 silhouettes walking together. And above them, the last butterfly of the season drifted through the air, slow, luminous, and free, before disappearing into the night's gentle glow.